This episode is brought to you by Kanye West and his inspirational quote, "She's so precious, with the peer pressure, couldn't afford a car, so she named her daughter Alexis."
Welcome to the Stephan Dyer podcast, my people.
Hello, my people! ¿Cómo están? Welcome to the Stephan Dyer podcast, where I welcome people with remarkable stories for amazingly vulnerable conversations. This episode was just a blockbuster of emotions for me. No joke, I've been wanting to have this conversation with Kenneth, aka Dr. Montague, for years since I met him, because he's one of those people where I'm like, man, when I grow up, I want to be like Dr. Montague. Seriously, like one of the coolest, most authentic people I've ever known. Listen to the bio. This is incredibly impressive. Kenneth Montague is a Toronto-based dentist, as well as an art collector and the founding member of Wedge Curatorial Projects, a non-profit arts organization that helps to promote African-Canadian artists. Montague is the owner of Word of Mouth Dentistry, a dynamic and innovative dental clinic in downtown Toronto. Bloor and Bathurst represent. Open since 1992, Montague's patient base includes many local and international artists, musicians, and actors. He's been voted best dentist by readers of Now magazine many times and endeavors to treat all patients and staff with care, love, and respect, and I can confirm that because I've been going there since 2008, and I love it there. I don't even know anyone who loves going to the dentist as much as I do, just because I feel at home there. I've recommended my wife now goes there. So many of my former I want all the Latinos, everyone in Toronto should go to this. But it's incredible. I love Word of Mouth. I love everyone there. Montague is a founding member of the University of Toronto Faculty of Medicine's Summer Mentorship Program, which provides an intimate educational experience for high school students of Black and Indigenous ancestry. And this is my favorite one, for his ongoing work with emerging artists and young creatives. Dr. Kenneth Montague received an honorary doctorate from OCAD University in 2016. A true trailblazer, my friends. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy this episode like I know you will. In 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Stephan Dyer podcast. I have here the unbreakable, the unmistakable, the highly capable Dr. M. Kenneth Montague, the legend, the master of disaster, the owner, the architect, the king, the emperor of Bloor and Bathurst, Wedge, Word of Mouth. Oh my God, I am so excited to have you here. How are you, Dr. M?
I'm great. You forgot the king of the dental thing, but yeah.
Yes.
But here I am, and great to be on your show. Thank you, brother.
Listen, every time that I was thinking about the podcast when I was starting it, I was like, I wish Dr. Montague said yes to come to my program. I hadn't even asked you. But I want to start this telling you why I invited you. This is very important to me. I have a thing with people who have been able to do it well without losing their authenticity and their essence in many areas of life. And I find that you have proven that you can do your job well and be incredible outside of the office in many different ways. You're
Come on, man.
Cool husband, cool dad, incredible dentist, boss, like husband, member of the community. In my books, and I told that to your staff in the Christmas meeting where I went and performed, I'm like, you're a modern day hero in my books. You're just one of those guys that, it always bugs me when people lose their essence and kind of sacrifice their authenticity at the expense of their job. And I know a lot of jobs are stressful, but just like LBJ, LeBron James, more than an athlete, you're more than a dentist, and I really admire you.
Thanks, Stephan. I know you're just looking for your free root canal, but that's okay, man.
And my whitening.
But I appreciate that.
I want
free root canal. See,
my Invisalign again.
There it is.
So that's why I really wanted to have you. I'm looking for the secrets, all your tips. I really admire you as a boss, as an entrepreneur. And this is what I told you when I invited you. I don't know a lot of people who love going to their dentist. And I love going to visit you and the family in many ways, because I'm from Costa Rica, as you know. Your parents are from Jamaica.
Yeah.
You were born in Windsor, Ontario, but in many ways you're Jamaican.
Yeah.
And I met you in 2008. I was at U of T through my good friend P Love, Patrick Love.
All right.
Shout out to P Love.
Patrick, yeah.
And it became going to your office, to the dentistry, to Word of Mouth, like a home away from home in many ways.
Wow,
it's
thanks,
like you guys saw me going from U of T finance to then joining the bank, to then quitting the bank, to then getting married, to then
thanks,
like
man.
comedy, to then speaking. And
Yeah, you were a shirt and tie guy then.
Yeah.
Full on shirt, tie, dress. Well, actually, no one wears a shirt and tie anymore, but that's COVID. But hey,
Yeah.
But you really, I saw the change.
So-
yeah.
I always say in these episodes that I'm more interested in the process than in the result. Obviously, you're a very accomplished person. You've done incredible things, but I wanna understand where this came from, and we're gonna start with your childhood here. I know you were born in Windsor, Ontario. Parents from Jamaica. What was your childhood like?
What a question. I had a great childhood in terms of love, comfort, care. Those essential things that we all need. The things that you're giving your little son now, because I know you to be that guy, Stephan. So the warm environment, the kind of acceptance and unconditional love, we certainly had that. There were 3 kids. I was the last of 3. My parents were immigrants, like so many of us. We're in a country full of immigrants, but the difference here, I think, was that, they were among the first Jamaicans in Canada. Certainly in Windsor, we were probably the second family in a town that already had over 100,000 people. So you can imagine, you really feel like an island,
Yeah.
I was the only black kid in the class the whole way up, right through dental school. I mean, it was an experience that, in a lot of ways, shapes you. I think, I'm the guy that kind of learned early how to win friends and influence people, but it was like a survival tactic. It was one of those things that, and maybe that's the way comedy is for a lot of comedians too. It's like, you were bullied, or you wanted to be popular, and you find a way of kind of relating to people that kind of you give it out and you get it back. You either go that way, or you're angry all the time and you're carrying this thing around with you. Because when I think about it now, there was a lot of trauma. I mean, there were some really traumatic events as a little kid around race, because there was just nobody else. So
Yeah.
it was easy to be picked on and so forth, But I'm over it now, But listen, though, it was tough, I mean, I gotta say that these traumatic kind of events, they shape you.
Yeah.
They really do.
Identity-wise, in my books and in my experience, because I relate a little bit about what you said. My parents are Peruvian. My whole family's Peruvian, but I was born and raised in Costa Rica.
Ah, right.
And
Ethnically Peruvian, but culturally Costa Rican, like you grew up.
well, that's the thing. I identified as Costa Rican,
Yes.
but in many ways I wasn't, because I had different words. My parents are Peruvian. I was kind of not raised in a Costa Rican home per se.
Interesting.
And then at age 10 I moved to El Salvador. Then at age 14 I moved to Mexico. Then at age 16 I went to boarding school in Quebec. And then I came to Toronto. So in many ways I was really good at adapting, but I always felt like I didn't really fit in. And
Right.
I had like a great childhood. I'm not complaining here. And obviously there's bullying. There's like all these things that shape you. My question is, did you ever feel like you were kind of like Canadian at your school, but then you had to be Jamaican at home, or with your cousins, or when you went back to Jamaica, you had to put on a different accent.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're talking about code shifting now, which is, you become a master code shifter if you're going between cultures all the time. So you're exactly right. I mean, I literally could go into mi patois and tingan, spend me summer, in Jamaica and ting, and then, be another guy completely, in Windsor. And even within Windsor, I think more interestingly, I'm the black guy that, grew up listening to as much, Aerosmith, and Van Halen as I did Bob Marley and Yellowman and, all that stuff. So that was always funny. Like, I always think of the idea of music and using music as a sort of a trope of my identity, thinking about it, because like I can tell you, the joke of it is I was, my friend Rob Osborne and myself were like the only two black guys that would go to a hard rock concert. Like, we'd go to a concert like Megadeth, like just killer. And like all the girls are coming up to you going, "Hey, can you guys get us backstage?" We're not roadies. We're fans, and all the white guys come up to you like, "Hey, you guys got some herb? Can we score some off you?" And I'm like, "We're not dealers. We're fans." Okay, so that's like the black guy at the rock concert.
Yeah.
So it was really, it's a comedy when you think of it now, but then it was, you really do feel like an island, But now it's a great thing, because now, my record collection is like heavy metal and, classic 70s reggae. And because you have that mindset, as you're open to things. So, it's wider than that, because from the start, I was into this and I was into this. So now it's jazz. And it's over here with completely, avant-garde,
yes,
alternative music. And over here, we're on some classical, and over here, and this because you come to our dental office, and one day it's Nirvana, one day it's Sade, so
one day it's Pharrell,
and one day it's Pharrell, actually most days it's Pharrell, he's my boy, but all right, it's only Pharrell, but still, that learning to kind of understand, where everyone's coming from as a survival thing serves you well. In my life, has served me well, certainly as a dentist. Like, I feel like because I experienced so much, I wanted to be on that football team, so I learned how to, throw the ball. I never really learned how to throw that well or catch that well, but I got on the team. Yeah, never played, but no, sat on the bench for 4 years. But you're on the football team, and I'm on the French club, and I'm learning guitar so I can be in the band, and I'm, on the debate club, and you've got the Jamaican immigrant parents that are like, you gotta be a professional, because they faced, you can imagine the kind of discrimination they face. So they want their kids, this is the immigrant story, right? So you want your kids to have their own business and blah, blah, blah. People can call you doctor. And so I think like all of those things, learning and seeing, it serves me well as a dentist now.
Yeah,
people come in and, you're a golfer, but I know a little bit about golf. You're into your music and, oh, wow, my dentist knows Megadeth. It's like, so now we have a dental practice full of, musicians and entertainment people. We have lots of people in advertising and design. We've got fashionistas, and we've got, Jamaican immigrant families that, they can relate to their dentist.
It's a melting pot. It's a beautiful melting pot.
We just have the one guy from Costa Rica. That's it, that's the only one that's allowed, really, But, that's,
In many ways... When we go into the topic of fatherhood, I'm going to tell you how has this impact how you're going to raise your kids. But we're going to get there, because now that I'm a father, I'm thinking about that a lot.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you, because as I walk through your dentistry office and word of mouth, it's Nirvana, it's Pharrell, it's Jay-Z, it's Fugees, it's a lot of these things, and then there's art. You feel like it's an art gallery, and it's like you feel in a cultural experience. Yeah, everyone treats you well. Everyone's smiling with great teeth. It's intimidating.
We're preaching it. You gotta have it.
And then you realize, what? I'm at a dentistry office. This isn't very normal, and that's in many ways why I think I kind of fit there.
Yeah.
It's
You're kind of patient, for
challenging
sure.
the
Yeah,
status quo in many ways, and I kind of like that, which is what I'm doing. I feel with Malpensando and Juan, my business partner, and my wife in many ways. It's like I never really fit in all these areas. I'm gonna build my own place, you know. I'm gonna build my own little happy place, and I think you've really accomplished that. So going back to now, we want to go into fatherhood. You got Eli, you got Theo, 4 and 6 years old right now. Shout out to your wife Sarah, and I would be lying if I said parenthood hasn't changed me. You know, I think I keep my essence, my authenticity, but sometimes I just want to cry thinking that something could happen to Liam, you know? And he's just like sitting there.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think about my dad. I don't want to compare myself to my dad, but I'm comparing myself to my dad. I'm like, oh my God, what if I don't have the money my dad had to send my kid to boarding school, or like to give him a good education, or maybe if I give him everything, will he come out spoiled, or maybe if I don't give him anything, will he think that I don't love him? So
Yeah.
I'm just going through all kinds of scenarios in my mind, and then
And
I'm
he's
like,
looking at you going, I just want some milk, all right?
he's just crying.
Why are you worried, Pops?
Yeah.
I just need milk here. You know,
And then my wife has her own movies in her head, but it's all in many ways affected and impacted by the way that we were raised.
Absolutely.
So how has Jamaica, how has your parents, your background, Windsor, Ontario, and being raised in Canada affected your parenthood style, and how has it affected you as a person?
Wow, that's a complicated question, a good question. But, you know, for starters, I feel like I'm unique in that I really waited a long time. I'm in my 50s. I'm an old guy. You know, I had my first kid, you know, at 50, after 50. So
You look 35.
I appreciate that. 33. Come on, man. Come on. All right.
I'm 33.
All right,
So
there
you look
go.
35.
See? There it is. All right. I'll take it. Big brother still. But I have to say that being older as a father has been good for me, and I think generally it's a good thing. I mean, for me, I needed to go through many years of learning on my own, and it's not so much sowing your oats and all that business. It's more that I had a lot of interests, as we mentioned, and I really was desperate to sort of try things, travel, see the world. Art became a passion early on, and I'm a big art collector now. The focus is on Black artists, and again, it's like kind of a reflection of yourself, and kind of figuring out your own identity. And so I was on that tour, that journey, for many, many years before I met my wife.
Yeah.
So I think that age and life difference could be really problematic, but actually it can be a great thing because, of course, there's a bit of a generational split there, but I learned so much from her and she learns from me, and not just experience, just different things you go through generationally. And I think all of this has been brought to bear, as a parent. I think we're a good team, and the kind of worries that I have aren't the same as a younger dad like you. You might think of yourself as an old dad, but you're a really young dad from my perspective. So, we don't worry as old dads as much about the financial stuff because you've been working for a few years.
Yes.
You own a place. You have, in my case, I own an office. I own a home. I mean, the financial stuff's in pretty good shape to have kids. It's not the worry that my 20-something, 30-something friends have. So,
yes.
That's a big thing.
That's a big thing.
It's a trade-off, right? Because then you have less energy. As you
Yes.
know, and you're going to see more as in the next few years, the kid wants you to get down on your knees and play Legos. It's not like I can just bend over and, no, Dada, get down. We need you to engage with us, Dada. So it's a little harder for the creaky kneed 50-year-old, So
Yes.
that part is harder, and there's a trade-off. But in the end, I think the experience, the confidence, what you've learned along the way, and certainly your sense of identity yourself is much more in place as you go along in life. And I think that that makes me a better father. All of those issues we talked about earlier around, race and difference and all that, of course, it never leaves you, but you have a much better sense of it, I think, as you get older, because you put it in perspective, Yeah.
I like that. It seems like you have a better grasp of it. When I quit my job in 2017, immediately myself and my business partner were like, we want to be famous, and we want to be on Netflix, we want to travel, we want to tour, blah, 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 blah. And as it's been 4 years now that we quit our corporate jobs, and we don't want to be that anymore. I don't want to be famous anymore. If it happens, that's cool too, but I think that it's evolving. My identity and my need for attention has evolved in many ways. Now I want to be a great dad. I want to be a great husband. I want to be a great speaking coach. I want to be a great keynote speaker. I still want to be an incredible comedian. But I find that as the layers peel, you get to more of the core, and you're like, I just want to do more of what I love to do,
You talk about satisfaction.
Yes.
Job satisfaction. I mean, everyone says happiness, and happiness is important, but happiness can be fleeting in life. It happens.
Yes, it's sometimes
there,
not
it's
as
not
recurring.
There. Yeah, you're a dad with
and
a young
well-being,
kid.
I want the well-being as well.
Not every day's going to be happy, but you want the satisfaction in your life. Like, am I doing something that brings me joy?
Exactly.
And I think in your case, you're a people person. You like people.
100%.
You like helping people. You like, as my late father said, lifting as we rise. You like to pull the people up as you're coming up. I mean, if you're hell bent on being that number one comedian and you're gonna do it, it's very hard to be, taking care of other people, your wife, your kid, everything.
Yeah.
You're not that guy, so you have to be true to yourself. Yeah.
Exactly, and it's well-being, it's satisfaction. I want to be doing what I'm doing right now in 40 years, and it's okay if I don't do it, because I'll know that I'm gonna be living authentically. I hope in 40 years and still be pursuing whatever it is that gives me satisfaction at that time. I noticed that one of the things that gives you great satisfaction is art, and you created Wedge Curatorial Projects in 1997.
Yep.
You're the director of it. And I actually went on the website and I saw a Jorian Charlton collection.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Curated by Emily Croning.
Yeah.
I did my homework. What about that?
Yeah.
Huh?
She's also a patient of ours too. Yeah.
Oh
Emily's
my God.
great.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
For our listeners, just to give you some context, so Wedge is a privately owned contemporary art collection focusing on exploring Black identity. And I love the mission. Check this out. To provide a platform for Black artists through exhibitions, programming, and publications. Tell me a little bit about Wedge, and where did that idea come from?
Okay, well, as a kid, as a 10-year-old, I was lucky enough to have parents, though they were immigrant parents and they were struggling, they also were educated and they were really into art. So, my dad, who was a teacher, was working on a graduate degree, and we lived in Windsor, the southernmost Canadian city, right across the river from Detroit. So, Detroit, as you can imagine, great cultural, city. So we, a bastion of Black culture. So, we got to hear that Motown music. We got to hear, 70s soul.
Detroit Pistons, the Bad Boys.
Pistons. I grew up with all that. Isaiah Thomas, it was great. So, as a 10-year-old, my parents took me to the Detroit Historical Society and the DIA, the Detroit Institute of Arts. Great murals by Diego Rivera. Like, I remember as a kid seeing these, incredible, all of this stuff affects you as a 10-year-old. And I knew even then when I saw an image of a older Black couple, sophisticated, wearing this, fur coats and a white wall tires, a Cadillac in front of these Harlem brownstones. I'm like, that's not what I'm seeing in my life, because I'm growing up seeing these comedies that we love from then, Sanford and Son, Red Fox, the What's Happening gang, all these sort of like they're really showing like Black folks as buffoons, and we're laughing, but we're like, we don't live like that. Our family's not like this, So I'm kind of sitting there going like, there's another way that Black folks live, and I was seeing this through art. And so, it got to be a mission. By the time I got, I was 21 now, I'm in dental school, and I started to go to art openings, stuff when I was at University of Toronto, where I would be, already buying, emerging artists' work when I was a student, with
Wow.
whatever money I had. So I was always wanting to have a longer relationship with artwork than seeing it on the wall in a gallery or in a magazine. There was no internet then. And it was like I started to very organically move into kind of collecting. I think a collector's a collector. Like I was collecting seashells when I was a kid and bottle caps and salt and pepper shakers. And when it came to art, it was much more a personal thing, though. It was like a lot of portraits and figurative work and work that reflected who I was, and so that morphed into a gallery, a commercial gallery that I actually started in my home in a wedge-shaped space.
No
so it was
way.
the Wedge Gallery, and that was one of the first loft conversions in Toronto around Bathurst and Queen, and then after 4 or 5 years of that, it became a thing. Like I was selling artwork, and I was working as a dentist Monday to Friday, having these openings on a weekend, and I realized I really wasn't into the selling of art. That wasn't the thing. It was the storytelling and learning about these artists and sharing it with people. So I realized I was more of a curatorial mind and a collector mind than a commercial gallerist sort of mind. So that's an important thing, is to recognize who you are and
That
what you're doing.
self-awareness.
Yeah. So I let that part go and took the gallery out of my home and came up with this more nomadic concept, the Wedge Project, the Wedge Curatorial Project, which goes around and works with other institutions as small as a little non-profit, in a building with a bunch of little art spaces, up to the ROM, the Royal Ontario Museum. I did a big show there, or took stuff to United States to big institutions there. I've given talks about art at the Barnes Foundation in Philadelphia, at the Studio Museum in Harlem in New York, in London at the Courtauld. So it becomes this passion that I think a bit like that Malcolm Gladwell thing, with Outliers, where
Yes.
you put your 10,000 hours in and you get to be an expert at something. I never went to school for art. But the particular artists that I'm into, I have a lot of books. I did a lot of reading. I met them. I went and did artist visits and studio visits. And, because I did this over 20 plus years now, you kind of get to be an expert at the thing.
Yeah.
And so it was a hobby, dentistry still being my main gig. But the hobby has become, a viable career path as well. And now I have two things. I have this nonprofit art collective. It's a kind of the curatorial project, which is about emerging young artists, and we got government grants, and the bank will give us money for shows, and that's a not-for-profit. And then I have the Wedge Collection, which is a privately owned art collection. So it's two streams, and that collection is becoming bigger and bigger now that the art market is recognizing the brilliance of these Black artists that were really underknown, under-celebrated over so many years. And with the changing times, people are recognizing the value. So suddenly my personal collection has a much bigger value in the art market and interest from other people generally around the art. So that's been a happy accident,
When I went to your house to do the performance of the comedy at your Christmas party,
Yeah.
I saw a lot of those art.
Right.
And
yeah.
man,
Were you snooping around my house?
You gave me the tour. You actually gave everyone the tour.
I did.
It was such an this is the thing about you. It's never just what you're doing. It's not just the tour at the house. It's not just going to the dentist. It's not just having a conversation. It almost feels like we're always traveling and honoring the people who've come before us and appreciating the intangibles in many ways, which I can't even appreciate. But because you're so passionate about it, I'm riding that wave too. I remember since the beginning, Position as Desired.
Oh yeah, was that our show at the ROM? Yeah,
that was a show at the ROM, and you had some at your
remember that
at the office.
Oh yeah,
and
those are Black Canadian photographers. Yeah,
it was a beautiful collection. I think most of the things that I do now, obviously I got the money makers, I got the corporate events, the public speaking, the improv for team building. I got my own shows. I tour, I travel. and now I'm starting to do keynotes. But apart from that, which is the equivalent of your dentistry, which is the moneymaker in many ways, or what I do full time, I'm just starting to let myself go and pursue those things that I know are positive rabbit holes. It just gives me satisfaction. I don't know why, and I don't care why. And it's just beautiful. It's what I want to pursue because it gives me that feeling that not a lot of other things do. For example, I love interviewing people. I love watching interviews. I love vulnerable conversations. I love documentaries. I love getting together with people. I love connecting people. Obviously, I love making people laugh. But as you said, I'm about connecting. I'm a man of the people. You know.
You are.
And I love raw stuff. I love vulnerability. I don't even like sci-fi movies because it didn't really happen in real life. I want to hear the story of the person.
You're a documentary guy.
I'm that type of guy. And I think one of the other things that make you special is that you have something incredible going on at Word of Mouth at your dentistry. And this is you have no idea how much I've been wanting to have you here just to ask you about this. So right. I made some notes here and because I've been thinking about this. So as I said at the beginning, I love going to the dentist. I love going to your dentistry office. I love everyone who works there, and everyone who works there looks like they love working there.
Well, they really do. You know? You talk about authenticity, but we only hire people that love what they do.
Exactly. You know? So this is where I want to go, and this doesn't happen by coincidence. So,
right.
In my view, you need to have clear company core values so that you can have a successful recruiting process.
Yes.
You have a lot of people that have stayed for 5, 10, 50, 20, 25 years. Nala, Marcella. Yep. They've been there for such a long time. I know there's been others. Yep. I performed at your Christmas party in 2019, and one of your team members was leaving, I think, for family reasons. She wasn't going to come back, and she was crying. Right. Like she was being like forced to do something, and it was like this doesn't happen by coincidence, you know? And my question is, there has to be the magic sauce. What do you do? What do you look for when hiring a potential member of your team? Because this doesn't just happen.
Yeah, well, it's a great question, and it's a easy one for me to answer. I mean, we literally have a kind of a 10 commandments of our office listed in our staff room. And that sounds like a funny thing to do, but many years ago, I put this together. I worked with a consultant probably 5 or 6 years into owning that practice. So certainly by year 2000, that's over 20 years ago now, we had kind of a mantra for our office. And it's this courtesy system, we call it. And the courtesy system is really like 10 points, and it's really simple stuff. It's like, you know, and very much taken from the sort of biblical 10 commandments, but modified for a small, intimate, professional office, like a dental office.
It's like core values, core beliefs.
It really is. So, tell the truth, that business, and it's so easy and
so hard sometimes.
Yeah, because, you came all the way from Ajax and outside of Toronto and you've come in for your appointment and the crown isn't ready. You could put the dental lab under the bus, but really it was you that wrote down the wrong date or didn't remember to call that date. And, it's a very difficult thing to look a patient in the eye and say that, I'm very sorry. I'm sorry. I thought that this would be ready. I didn't realize that you were coming to. But, people are never happy hearing that. But they are so, it disarms people when they're angry when you tell the truth.
Yeah.
They just go, I'm not happy about this, but thanks for letting me know. I'll reschedule. If you start shuffling and talking about, that lab always is sending things really late, but it just makes you look bad, And so, and then, or you're going to get outed because the receptionist is going to tell them it was the lab when they go to the, that it was the dentist, not the lab. So, I learned really early on, tell the truth about everything with your staff, with your patients. that tell the truth thing, and all the other comments, and all the other points on this courtesy system are not just for the dental office; they're for your life.
Yeah.
You know, there's one of the simple ones is, you know, when people come into the office in the morning, you say hi, hello, and use their name. When you're leaving the office, you say goodbye. You walk through the rooms, and even if I'm working with a patient, I want my receptionist to come through and say, "Hey, Dr. Montague, I'm leaving now. Is there anything I can do for you? You know, see you tomorrow." It's a courtesy thing, and it's small. But when you don't do it, I'm sitting there going, "Is she up there? It's still at the front." And you know, what's happening here? I'm going to bring the patient up. Is there going to be someone there? Like, little things that keep us in touch with each other, and that kind of communication builds not only trust but love over time, mutual respect. You know, if there's a conflict between two people in a small office, you talk to the person you're having a conflict with first. Don't come to me as the boss. You know, like, I mean, and that's really against what maybe people might think. And I have a lot of young people that we hire that immediately come to me, my new dental assistant. Well, they are always telling me to do this, but you said you should put the sterilizer on and do this. And why are you coming to me about this? Go back to her and discuss it. You know, be polite. Let her know what your concern is. And, you know, work it out. Because you know what happens if you come to me, then it becomes the drama triangle.
Yeah.
And the drama triangle is a very, very important concept for a small office especially. The drama triangle is when there is a conflict between two people, or perceived conflict, there's always an unseen or seen third party that fills the role. So the roles are victim, that would be my dental assistant in that case. I'm the victim, like, bad things are happening to me. No one's listening to me. Then there's the persecutor, the person that persecutes, and that's going to be the other assistant. It's like, you never put the thing in the right spot. Like, that's the person. And then the third person has to be, in the drama triangle, the rescuer. And that's going to be Dr. Montague. I'm going to come and rescue. And, you know, you can't rescue both people. It's not possible. So, you know, I don't win. In the end, everyone's still angry. And it flips. Suddenly, I'm being too nice to one of them. And it flips, and then the other one becomes the victim, because she's now saying she was the persecutor. But it's like, why are you siding with her? Like, and then and it flips, and then she's like, yeah. And then that victim became the persecutor. And like, I'm still trying to be the rescuer, rescuing the other one now, and it just keeps moving around. The drama triangle is so inefficient. And so many people live in it, in relationships and in dental offices, and I just can't be part of that. Every time there's a potential conflict, I think of that drama triangle and quickly recognize, where am I at? Sometimes I'm the persecutor, sometimes I'm the victim, or feeling like that. Sometimes I'm the rescuer. Anywhere you go, if you don't see the one, if you know the other two, you can fill it in. That person's going to be the persecutor. So avoid it. Don't let that third party come in and make it a triangle. Keep it between two people. So to me, that's the most major thing that keeps the conflict down. And there's always going to be differences in an office, in any setting. I'm quiet. I'm talkative. I like these kind of activities and this kind of way of getting a job done. I like these kind of activities, and I do my thing really leisurely, but I still get it done. I do my thing really quickly. I mean, all these little things can niggle you.
Yes.
And I think, you know, there's a difference in a marriage. We spend some time usually with someone, you know what you're getting into. When you join an office, you know, that's not the same thing. There's suddenly a lot of moving parts. And
Yes.
why is she so quiet? Does she not like me? You know, like, So one of the key things is to hire people that they can be very different, and I like that. And you've had different hygienists in my office. So there's the quiet one, and there's the talkative one. But what they need to all have is that, what you call authenticity. In our case, it's, you know, that love of the job, love of what they do, that you feel love for people. I mean, we treat people. One of those comments in my, you know, my list of our 10 commandments is, you know, treat people, not procedures. So other dentists talk about that case, and they don't use the patient's name. And when we go to dental conferences, oh, I had a really big case today, and it was 12 crowns, and, you know, I billed this much. And, you know, I don't push whitening on people. I don't put, I wait for you to tell me, Dr. Montague, my teeth aren't straight, are they? I'm like, well, I was waiting for you to say that for the last 5 years so I can sell you this Invisalign. But wait for the patient to do it. Don't be pushing that orthodontic treatment on people that might not want it. Like
Yes.
The patient must come first, and their needs and their wants, not the dentist's needs and wants. And that's a tough one, because in dental school, you're learning all these things that you're supposed to carry out on people, but they don't teach you that you're supposed to listen. So listening is the most important thing. And I'm a talker. I joke all the time, but I'm a keen listener, particularly at that first dental visit. I spend an hour with patients, and they pay a lot of money for it, but they're never complain, because other dentists just go right in. All right, okay, well, let's get started today, and they miss getting to know that person and making them comfortable and having them understand that you're out looking out for their best interests and not trying to make a quick buck. Like, there's a lot of money to be made in a service industry like dentistry, but you don't have to be about that. If you do good work for people, they'll tell other people, which is why we say word of mouth. In our practice, we don't advertise. People like Patrick will tell you, oh, go to that guy because it's a fun office and we love this. And
yeah, I want all my friends to go.
It builds on our patience.
Whole Canada to go.
Well, we
actually,
won't
maybe
have
not,
room for every Canadian, yes, but
I think it's also reflect, like, Dr. Manga, Dr. Fam.
Hey,
so
I have great
kind.
associates.
So kind. And one of the things that I love, which I hadn't really thought until we were just talking, is so much diversity and inclusion too. And I just kind of realized that maybe that's another reason why I feel so comfortable there, because I see myself reflected. I see myself.
Thank you for saying that, because that is by design,
Yeah.
That hygienist is Chilean, and this one's from
Ethiopia. Position as desired.
And there it is. The front desk, she's Portuguese, and this one is. It's really important, right?
I think sometimes you see billboards for Hollywood, and nothing against white people, but it's all white people, and I'm like, I don't see myself in that, Or sometimes, one of the things that I've loved about the Second City recently, the comedy and improv school, is that some of the people in the main stage, they are Indian, they are Asian, they are Filipino, and
that changed. It wasn't like
100%.
In my lifetime, Second City, back when I was,
all white.
In my 20s,
and the audience is still primarily white. That hasn't shifted really.
Yes.
But there's African American people.
Yeah.
I would love for there to be like more Latino people. But that's
going to be you lifting as you rise.
Eventually, rise by helping others.
Yes.
So when I see that billboard of the main stage thing, and I see that diversity, I'm like, hey, there's a ticket for me there too. Like I could actually be there. I kind of see the path, and it seems like insignificant, but it's huge for newcomers. It's huge. So I just want to commend you for that. Now I want to ask you about the entrepreneurial side, the boss side, and I'll tell you, I'm going to be really honest. The only things that I miss about the bank, obviously the people, because I miss my my colleagues. I miss making people laugh, but mostly the recurring paycheck every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But
because the bank had that money.
Yeah.
You weren't going to not get paid.
Get that money.
Get
so
the money.
And recently, in my years, I was talking to my business partner, Huang, and I'm like, you know what I miss? I miss getting congratulated. Being the boss is sometimes a lonely road. It's very... And as an approval junkie, as a man of the people, I love being congratulated. I love being recognized. And not all the days are good. And even when they're really good, it's just you tapping yourself in the back, Yeah. How do you unwind, recharge, and keep yourself motivated?
Yeah, now that is a tough one. You and I are very similar that way, Stephan. Like, I also, I love helping people, but I also love to get the response. Not always necessarily praise, but just I like the feedback from people,
Same.
And man, when you're alone, running your thing at whatever level, being the boss, you have to get that from yourself and find it in yourself, which is hard when you're used to a certain kind of interplay with people, and it comes naturally. This love of people, so you get it back, and man, when you're having to be the boss and having to make tough decisions about hiring and firing and how many hours do you work, and you really did something today
The
that
triangle.
I have to tell you. Yeah, keep out of that drama triangle, and to have to keep managing people and doing all that stuff when you just want to have fun with them, but it's not like that. There is something you have to accept, I think, that there is a bit of a hierarchy where there's a boss, and it's not better than, it is you're giving direction to. So it's not a better than, and I think my staff realizes that. Yeah, they respect me, but they know that we have a lot of fun together, but when it comes down to it, they're not going to say to me, we're going to work till this time every day, and then, we'll tell you when we want to go home. No. You have to set the pace of the office, and that's a certain amount of responsibility. Being the boss is lonely for a lot of the time, but really having that creative control over my office, and I say that in the case of my dental office because it's about the music and the artwork, the kind of patients that we are going for in
curating in many ways.
Yeah, we have a lot of people who make me happy, like yourself, who come in and we can have great conversations, so that it is much more than a job, and it fulfills my personal desire and goal to have that job satisfaction where you're dealing with people. So I balance the harsh having to be the one that makes these tough decisions all day, and all of that goes with being the boss, with the pleasure I get from a team of coworkers that also enjoy that kind of interaction, and the love that I get back from my people, so my patients. So I mean, it's a kind of a do the hard work here, but expect that the results will give you back something that maybe you lose leaving a job like that where you're working in teams. And I think that's even harder now. I think the generation below me, below you even, the 20-somethings coming up, so many of their jobs are around teams and all the IT jobs and everything. And I think that this particular year has been very tough for people, having to be isolated.
Yes.
When those people are used to working, in offices that don't look like the kind of offices that were around when I was a kid. They're very open, and you walk over there and deal with that person, and I think, there's a great change that sort of happened this year with the pandemic and the shutdown that will have a ripple and a lasting effect. I think we're going back to some kind of working in pods and in isolation again, which I don't know is real. I don't think it's really human nature. I think that's it's an artificial thing, and we need it right now, and I respect it. But I hope that will break down, and that we'll go back to some sort of face-to-face, which I gotta say is preferable, not just for meetings, just for most jobs. We're humans that used to live
social
in
animals.
Caves together. We didn't kind of live in our own separate. It's a very troubling thing for me to think that, because it's obviously more efficient for the bank and for the business to have people working from home. We don't have to pay the rent anymore. We don't have to pay for those lunches anymore. We don't have to. But, it's and more productivity. I can reach them at 8 o'clock at night now and send an email. And I just think that there's a downside to that we're losing a human connection. And I think persons like you and I, have felt that pain during this pandemic.
I want to be everyone's best friend. So when I have to make those tough decisions, it really takes a toll on me, and I've just come to accept it in many ways. It's that self-awareness. Gary V on Instagram, Gary Vaynerchuk, who I really like, he says that self-awareness is the greatest gift that you can give yourself. So when I have these days where it takes a toll on my energy on these things.
Sure.
I've come to recognize a couple of things that make me come back quicker than if I just let it go. Maybe it'll take a day and a half. Maybe it'll take 6 days with this thing on my mind, And these things are running, meditating, and journaling. Obviously spending time with my wife and my son, but that's more of a constant than I'm grateful for.
Yes.
And I'm so grateful for the pandemic in that way because I've been able to spend more time with them. What is your equivalent of meditating or journaling or running? What do you do to tap into the inside and just flip that negative or hard day to the positive? Is it art?
Yeah, for me, a lot of it is actually the arts. Music is so critical for me. People think, why didn't you go into music? And I actually studied music at university level, at University of Windsor, and got into the School of Music at McGill University the same week that I got a letter of acceptance to dental school. So music was that big in my life and remains, I mean,
What instruments?
I played guitar in a band, in a kind of a reggae pop band that was pretty popular. We put out a record and all that when I was at university.
What was the name?
The band was called Contra Dance, which is kind of a play on, there was this old sort of square dance, sort of contra dance, but we were thinking about the word contra, like against,
Yeah.
and it was a kind of in the era of like the Clash and like these groups that were sort of like political, but so we were like that kind of MIA kind of group. We loved that kind of not that sound, but that idea of being political. But I loved music, and it remains. I realized for me, I preferred it as a hobby than to be very serious with it. I was playing trombone, and that would have been the instrument I would have studied and maybe ended up being a jazz or concert musician. But it is certainly, the dedication that would have taken. I'm not sure I was that guy. I love music for the fun of it and the performance, not necessarily all the practice. And so, you have to kind of know who you are. I think I made the right decision because I've got a dental practice now full of musicians, full of
lots
entertainment
of artists.
people. Yeah, with so many bands come through and actors, that are doing movies. I'm like the go-to guy for this because there's this side of me that loves entertainment and loves, music in particular. And I think that helps for that career. But for me, after work, I've got a beautiful, sound system at home. I've got, a wife who appreciates music, and the kids. I've got a 6-year-old that's been playing guitar already since he was 4, and the little one is 4 now, and he loves his percussion. So I think setting up a life where you have this other thing, and in my case, music and the art collection that we've talked about, those things are critical for balance. You need to know what it is. It's different for everyone.
Yes.
For a lot of dentists, it's playing golf or going boating, and that some of these things are very stereotypical. I was never that guy, nor are my associates. We're the contra dental office. We're the ones, contra dentist. Yeah. We're the ones that, we never go to those golf conventions. We're going to see a band, at Lee's Palace down the, we can't do that right now, but we do a lot of music related things, art related things. Took my whole staff to the Art Gallery of Ontario to see a Jean-Michel Basquiat show, just so they could learn about this graffiti artist and the history of it, and they loved seeing this thing that I was giving them as a personal joy, because I think part of it was seeing how much their boss not so much knew about it, but how much joy it was bringing me. It made them see another side of myself. I think it's important to show the people you work with a bit of yourself. You don't need to be an open face, but they need to know what makes you tick. It gives them a different and deeper appreciation of who you are.
100%. I always drop this quote in every single podcast episode, and it's, relationships move at the speed of vulnerability. And I saw that Maya Angelou t-shirt on your Instagram. People will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
You remember that.
And it's at the center of our Speaking with Confidence workshops. We always have those two quotes. And that's why I think I love you so much, and word of mouth, because
and I love you too, brother.
Let's go.
Let's
go. And it's that. I love people who are not one-dimensional. And I mean, some people can't really disconnect from their work, and they have that identity so ingrained.
It's true.
That it's hard. You got the lawyers, and they're lawyers in the club, They're lawyers in the supermarket. They're lawyers at the Christmas party. They're lawyers
in
at the
church.
And I'm like, fine, dude. Like, if that's cool and that's your modus operandi, that's your defense mechanism, and that's your vibe, that's fine. I can't.
Yeah.
And that really used to get me angry at the bank because people would be like, well, are you a banker or are you a comedian? I'm like, I'm both.
Yeah.
And what's wrong with that? And sometimes I would get some comments were like, well, if you're doing too much comedy, that may interfere with your banking career. And like, they may think that you're not taking your banking career so seriously. And I'm like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, at the beginning, it really bugged me because I really wanted to be successful at the job, which I did.
Yeah.
But then, as me and my business partner started to do a lot better, I'm like, you only live once, Why am I just putting this tagline on me? I'm like, fine, but I don't want to be that guy who does banking for 50 years and fine. It's so cool if I make it to VP or CEO, whatever.
You could see the road in front of you.
100%.
And you could say to yourself, and you could see that you could get there with that hard work, but it was maybe almost too predictable.
100%.
Yeah, too predictable.
I think because I've been in so many environments and so many countries and boarding school and in many ways, you're Windsor, Ontario, feeling that fish out of water. Now that I have the money and the freedom and the disposable income and time to really pick what I can be and choose and become, I'm not sticking with one. I love many things, And I'm so happy that I made that decision. While it may have set me back the first year and financially, I'm like so happy, like so fulfilled. Have traveled 8 countries, hundreds of shows, impacted so many people, taught thousands of people how to become funny, confident speakers.
That's great.
And I think you and I have something very clear and word of mouth in Malpensando, which is you're not in the dentistry business. You're in the relationships business of helping people have healthy smiles or whatever you may want to call it. I'm in the relationships business of helping people become confident speakers or funny confident speakers. I'm not in the comedy business. I'm in the relationships business. And I think that's why people keep coming back. Mm-hmm. I've only been doing this for like 6 years. There's people who've been doing it for 30 years. Why do they keep coming back to us? Because we develop those relationships. We may not be the best. Who cares? Anybody can teach comedy.
Right.
But they love how they feel when they come to us. And I think that's a big difference. I think you and your team have been really successful at building long-term dentist-patient relationships.
It's true.
So what's been your train of thought behind this rethinking and deconstructing that typical dentist-patient relationship?
Yeah, I think at the core, you do have to recognize that you are providing a service that has to fall again under the whole medical / scientific method. So it doesn't matter what the envelope looks like. In the end, you have to be a good dentist technically. You have to have great hygienists that know how to clean teeth, know how to be to kind of have their patients get motivated about their health and be a partner in their own health. You have to be able to talk to people. You have to be able to recognize that it is the technical skill and the academic brilliance, but also the other part that I think many dental offices don't have is this other thing about, I guess it's around psychology, about loving people, but thinking about, what people's needs are aside from, I want to fix that tooth and I'm worried about my bad breath. There's like a much deeper thing we're trying to get to, which is we're trying to establish lifetime relationships. So you need to, think big picture when you're meeting a new patient, and let them really understand your philosophy from the start. And that you won't remember maybe, but in that first appointment when we met, even though I've had a cleaning first, but when you came into my chair and we spent an hour and we chat and we get to know each other, we take some x-rays, and I'm doing the scientific thing and I'm going through that method, and I'm doing a proper exam. But at the same time, because we give it a lot of time, an hour, I'm also asking you about your life. I'm letting you know that I care about the whole person. And again, we're treating people, not procedures. So,
everyone feels seen and heard.
Yeah, you got to do that. That's the difference, and that's the part that I think, again, is not taught in dental school, that needs to be a more important part of the curriculum. The psychology behind it, the understanding human nature and respecting that as and putting it at the same level as it's a filling, and this is how you do it, and these are the things that you need to do to be preventive. Well, how about big picture? Not that we need to be psychiatrists, but how do you motivate someone about their health when they're depressed? How do you make somebody who's anxious about the dentist, listen to all this stuff about here's how you brush and blah, 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 when they're scared in the chair? You need to spend the time to break down the anxiety, and then a relationship is formed, and then you can really do things. And I think that part is just not emphasized enough. I mean, that is what makes us different, and that's what I'm proud of about our office. We, for the third time, we treat people, not procedures. The people part is the key.
100%. And going back to what we were saying, you guys have that, you check that box of professional, you do the job, but then it's the bonus, the cherry on top, where you make everyone feel seen and heard. And thanks, I know, because I heard it in the Christmas party, that Marcela even helped one patient discover or that he had cancer or potential cancer. And
she's great. Yeah. I mean, you have to be good at what you do, which she is, and you have to care.
Yes.
Care enough to go, Dr. Montague, I know you're busy in that other room, but can you take off your gloves, clean yourself, take the time to put on your new scrubs and go in this room because you need to see this person. I think there's a problem. And I mean, you're going to say everyone would do that, but that's not true. A lot of people are like, well, it looks okay, or, that's not my job to investigate that. If you care about people, you want to investigate and make sure that they're going to stay healthy. And she is, emblematic of that kind of like philosophy in our office, that you put people first. And so her job is to be a hygienist and clean teeth. But there she is, diagnosing oral cancer. It's like, because she had a hunch. She knows what normal is. And this just didn't look normal. And it was niggling her. And so she brings a dentist over. And, that's really what you're supposed to do. But not everybody does that because they don't care.
It's the same
enough,
as tell the truth. That's what everyone's supposed to do. But not it's so easy, yet it's hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And going back to, it's just Dr. Manga, Dr. Pham, Sonia, everyone who's been there has this common denominator where they're kind and they don't want to go. I couldn't believe it how they were crying. Like she was crying at the Christmas party because she didn't. I'm like, is this what's going on? Is this like a court order that she has to leave? What's going? And it was incredible. And
thanks. It's because we create a kind of a family vibe.
Yes.
So it's like I'm leaving my family. She's got her family at home. She has her relationships, but we have this work family, and I don't think every office is like that. But we really strive hard to sort of make it a family vibe, and you can kind of take the pieces and say, okay, well, you're the boss, so I'm kind of like the papa, Big Papi, and then, I love it when you call me Big Papi, and, I think when you set up a situation that you respect people on that level, it's like family, a second family, you get that kind of longevity, like it's about that, it's not that hard, but as you would say, you have to be authentic. You can't make that up. You can't,
Authenticity over perfection.
Yeah.
You've been doing this for over 2 decades.
Yeah.
And what would you tell yourself to the young Kmon, to the young Kenneth? What advice would you give yourself that you've learned over the years? Is it don't take things too seriously? Don't take yourself too seriously? Is it stop caring about what people say? What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Yeah, that last thing, stop worrying about what people say. For me personally, I think you and I are the same. We really feed off people. So I think as I got older, that starts to, like water off a duck's back. I don't really care what they think. I'm following my own path. It's clear now. But I think 20 years ago, I was very concerned about, what do people think and what kind of office should I have that's, going to be popular, or what should I do to, be like, McDentist, like McDonald's, I think that was kind of what we thought, or certainly my generation thought coming out of dental school. There's a way that you should be, kind of music you should play. And I worked as an associate for the first, 4 or 5 years in an office that was like that, very generic. And I think we think that we should do that because that's supposed to be the pattern that brings success. Like the card looks like this, the music should sound like that. There's a certain clinical look. And I learned very quickly that, for starters, I wasn't happy there. I wasn't getting job satisfaction. I also learned that, the best way to enjoy a job is, as I'm saying, to, make the environment an environment that you love first. So I would say to my younger self, I wish from the start you had recognized that you should put, your own job satisfaction first, and not worry about the saying that we all hear at school, the customer is always right, or the patient should come first. No, actually, you should put your desires, your vision of your business first, and care about that first. Like, I set the hours that make me happy and are going to be good for my family life. Not I'm following the patients, else I'd be working till 10 o'clock at night like I did when I came out of school, because, the patient is always right and do what they... No, you have to be happy. If you're working at 10 o'clock at night and you're clearly not happy, people are going to feel that.
Yes.
And you're just... That office is like, I'm never going back there again. They were blah, blah, blah. The dentist needs to put themselves first. Then my staff comes second. So if they don't want to stay till blah, blah, blah time, that decision should be coming ahead of the patients. And don't get me wrong, I love my patients. Love them all. But you got to work in an envelope that comes down from your vision. Your vision has to be what leads. And then your staff comes next. And then
the vision triangle.
The vision
Not
triangle.
the drama triangle.
All right, I like that. Although it was, my idea, really. Even though you verbalized it, I'm going to still say that's I'll give you 3% on everything. But, so I think, I don't want people to get twisted about that. I love my patients, but it's the dentist who sets the tone, or the owner, and then their staff comes next in terms of needs, and then the patients. And then the patients are happy because
100%.
They're working under that umbrella of happiness. My gosh, if you do it the
perform.
other way, yeah.
Otherwise, you can't perform. It's like, I was miserable towards the last couple months and years at the bank, and in many ways, I let myself get to there, but
it was time to go. It was time to go.
How was I going to perform the best at my bank responsibilities if I was miserable? So you have to pay yourself first.
Yes.
It's like in finance. Pay yourself first.
What did James Brown say? Paid the cost to be the boss.
There you go.
I'm saying,
100%. It's you have to be happy. That'll also reflect on your staff.
Yes.
If you're in a horrible mood, everyone's going to be in a horrible mood too, and that'll trickle down.
It does.
I want to say this, and then I'm going to ask you the champagne question, which is our last question for all of our guests. So before I forget, it always surprises me every time I walk into Word of Mouth, and people are gonna think that the Dr. Montague sponsored this episode, but it always surprises me, especially last time. I walked in with a mask, obviously because of COVID and everything, and I was even with my wife and Liam, and we just had to. I wanted to get my wife to be a patient I want everyone, my whole family.
I appreciate it.
Everyone to come from Costa Rica and Peru to just be a patient, and then they were like. You could only see my eyes. And Dr. Pham was like, oh my God, how's Liam? How are you? Hi Narzali, how is the shows? And I'm like, how does she know it's me, you know? And even when it's pre-COVID, it's almost like I haven't seen you in 6 months probably, because sometimes it's 3 months, sometimes it's 6 months.
Yeah.
But it's like we never stopped seeing each other. And I'm like, do they have like a morning meeting about every single?
Well, we do have a morning meeting, but we don't necessarily discuss all those things. But what the morning meeting does is it sets the tone, and you see the name, and so we're not sitting at the morning meeting going, yeah, you know, well, that's Stephan Dyer. Remember, he has a new baby, and no, we don't do all that. Although when you see the picture, we have the patient's picture beside their name, and you know, you have a very kind of elegant program that sort of shows, you know, with this software kind of who's coming, and you see their face. And again, we're people first. So it's making Dr. Pham think about you in her subconscious, and she knows you because she met you. And, you know, because she cares, she's remembering these things. But if you don't have that morning meeting, then it's just like, oh, that person's here. And but when you had time to have the thing marinate over your day, it is really important to sort of like map it out in the morning. You know?
I just have never experienced that with any other business, and
she cares. She cares about people.
100%. She cares. Everyone cares. You could. It shows a mile away.
Yeah. You don't last in our office if you don't care, because, you know, again, within the staff,
you'd be the misfit.
And you know, nobody wants to be the misfit. We've been through that. It's like it doesn't work for your ego to be sort of like, why are these people all like, you know. So that it really feels very obvious when you've got someone on board that isn't part of that. And we've had to experience that. And usually it's not someone that you have to fire. They usually leave on their own because, they're not part of the family. They know it, you know? Yeah.
I think I read in a book that one of the best ways to hire people and fire people is through core values.
Yes.
And a lot of these people just leave because they don't find themselves being comfortable in a specific culture that really lives and breathes their core values. And also, for the people who have never been there, when they ask these questions, and like Dr. Pham, it doesn't appear or look fake. It's actually like they care.
Yeah, she does, I can tell you.
Yeah, 100%.
But you know it, you felt it. Yeah.
100%. And so now we're here at the end of this life-changing interview, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
And we're here at the champagne question, which is, if we were to meet a year from now with a bottle of champagne, this is 2022, what are we celebrating in Kenneth Montague's life?
Wow, the champagne question it is. I think that in a year from now, I'd love to, and that ties on to that last point, I'd love to be able to spend that extra time that you might get with my boys, with my kids, you know, growing up, which it's already a priority, obviously, and you know that as a father of a young child, it just changes. You just want to spend time with them. But being an older dad has its challenges, as I've said, and I think you have to spend a little more time, not less. You have to map out more time in your obviously busier life as you're older. You have to make that time. So I would say, a year from now, it'd be wonderful to say, and I took that day off work, that extra day now, and I spend it, with my kids, or I pick them up, after school, and we do blah, blah. I mean, I think one of the things that, I should mention is, on top of all I said about the pyramids and everything, family's still first. Family's first over career, over family is what made me who I am. I talked about my immigrant parents, but they made family first. They left their country and probably a very predictable life, probably a very good life in Jamaica, and came here not knowing anything and facing a lot of tough times and a lot of discrimination because they did it for their kids. They knew that education for their kids would be better here, and so I have that in my head as well. I think that a year from now, I'd like to be able to say that I'm on that track of being the best father I can be by maybe giving a little more time, taking a little bit away from that work that I love but is so much of my life, and give a little bit more of that time. So this isn't about money. Else I'd be like, a year from now I want to open that second office. Like,
yeah.
No. I have everything that I love and need in my one office.
You hit that sweet spot.
It's great. I don't need to. What I need is actually to make sure that it keeps running smoothly in the moments that I'm not there, and then spend that extra time with the fam. I mean, that would be probably something that other people wouldn't even notice, but for me personally would be a win, to be able to keep that going with that philosophy without me having to be there as much, and keep this going with me being a little more present. That would be the
champagne.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, man.
I gotta say, man, we have much more than a dentist-patient relationship. The thing that we really aren't talking about, though you've hinted at it a few times, is we brought you on board, we being our staff, and it was them. They were like, "Oh, he's so funny," and did you see this thing on Instagram with Stephan?
On Vine, back in the day.
And they were like, we should have him as our entertainment this year. So we brought you on board for our annual holiday party, which you saw is a real love-in.
Yes.
And you did not disappoint. It was great. I mean, people still talk about that night. And again, we always do something with one of our longtime patients. Go to their restaurant is typically the thing, but sometimes we change it up. We'll go to a concert, and in this case, you coming to my home actually and bringing the staff in and having this very intimate night with a lot of jokes. It was a very memorable event.
Yes,
and really, I think it really bonded us in a deeper way too. So that was a great thing. So I thank you for giving us that too, Stephan.
Yeah, it meant the world to me because again, it is hard to feel at home when you're away from home, Yeah. And it's these little and I've said this in past episodes where for the first time since I married my wife and we have Liam now, this feels like home. Yeah. Yeah. And it's rare when you're in these little spots or parties or meetups or comedy shows, whatever you may want to call it, where you're just like, this is my tribe,
Yeah.
And that's how it felt. So thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this interview for months, maybe years.
Yeah, come on, man.
This was the Stephan Dyer podcast. Kenneth Montague and Stephan Dyer. See you later. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you, brother.
Gracias por escuchar el Stephan Dyer podcast. Arrivederci, my people.